Hey, welcome back to another video in this Linux crash course. In this video, we're going to talk about text editors. I'm going to cover just some fundamentals. And I understand that there's quite the debate on which is the best text editor. I'm not going to get into that debate. I'm just going to show the fundamentals of three different text editors that I have, which is Nano, Vim, and Emacs. So let's get at it. And if you're following along, you know that this information is already in the GitHub repo under our Craven's Linux crash course. We are talking about chapter 4, which is the basics of text editors. And what we're going to do for each text editor is we're going to talk about how to open a file, some basic navigation, editing, and then saving, and maybe some additional commands that are in there. All right, so let's get to the terminal here. So let's just orient ourselves real quick. Right now I'm in this files directory and I have this file called names. And the first text editor we're going to use is something called Nano. Nano is something that's installed by default on Ubuntu, or at least it was in this distro that I'm using. I can type Nano and then it just takes the file name. And again, you don't have to type the whole file name, just type NA and then tab, it'll finish it for you. And you hit enter, now you're into the Nano editor. So this is the text editor now. So just some basics here. Navigation around Nano is pretty simple. I can use my arrow key, down arrow, up arrow. I can do right arrow, and right arrow will continue on to the next line, just like that. It wraps. And left arrow will do the same thing, go in the opposite direction, so it just wraps. So that's real quick arrow key navigation up and down. I also have my Control A mechanism. So Control A is the beginning of the line, which is the same thing as in the terminal window. Control A and Control E is to the end of the line. So back and forth, Control A, Control E, Control A, Control E. I can switch back and forth that way. Editing is pretty simple. I just put the cursor where I want to start typing and then I type. So I can hit enter and I can put another name here, maybe Fred. Or if I want to delete a name, I can delete a name. So I can just backspace it out. All right, so I'm gonna put Ben back in there. I got Fred in there right now. That's really the fundamentals of the Nano text editor. When I'm all done editing, of course I want to save my results. So there's a couple of ways you can save. I normally just hit Control X and that's going to exit out, but it's going to give me an option to save the modified buffer. So if I hit yes or Y there, then it's going to say, do you want to write it back to the file names? And if I hit enter, then it'll save that file for me. So if I cat this out, this will now have that new name Fred in. So let's go back into Nano again. The other way that I can exit or save, if let's say we're going to remove Fred, and if I want to exit or save this file, the help menu at the very bottom is pretty helpful. I can write out the file by typing Command O. So Command O is going to ask me if I want to write it out, and I can. And then when I write out, in this case, it doesn't exit. So if I want to save my work and then carry on and do some other edits, I can do that. Some other useful things that you can see down here at the bottom is there's a Control K for cut and a Control U for paste. So for example, whatever line that the cursor's on, if you hit Control K, it's going to delete that whole line. The important thing then is if I want that line back and I made a mistake, I can hit Control U and it'll paste in whatever that was previously cut. If I hit Control U again, it's going to keep pasting Bill in there. If I get to the spot where I want to delete, again, I'm going to delete Bill. I'm going to Control K. I can hit Control K again and it'll just keep deleting those lines. So that's the cut and the paste. Sometimes you want to search a really super long file and you want to find something. This isn't so long, but let's go ahead and use the where command. Where is, that's Control W. We're going to look for, let's say, the word Joe. If I type and I search for the word Joe, it's going to find an instance of it. And it's going to search forward. I think the cursor was in here somewhere after Bill, right? It's going to search forward and it found the word Joe and it highlights it for me. Now, if that's not the instance I'm looking for, I can Control W again. It knows a history of that we're searching for the word Joe, and it's going to wrap back to the top. So it was down here, it found that one, and now it wrapped to the top, and now it found this Joe here. So that's how that where is function. And the rest, I mean, you can go through the rest of these on your own and look. If you ever want help, you can Control G and get help. But I'm going to go ahead and exit out. And that is Nano. Let's move on to Vim next. So Vim behaves a little bit differently, but I can start it up the same way. I can use Vim and I feed it the file name. And now I'm in the Vim editor. Vim has this concept of different modes. It has 4 modes. There's a normal mode, which is what we're in right now. And that's used a lot for navigation. So I can move that cursor up and down and left to right. And we'll talk about how to navigate in a second. But there's another mode called insert. And so when I'm in insert mode, then I can start to type, and I'm going to start to alter this file and what's in this file. There's a mode called command mode. And so when I'm in their command mode, then I can enter commands like quit or save, and those commands will get executed. And then there's a visual mode. We're going to start with this normal mode here. And to just navigate around, I can do a couple of things. And so one of the powerful things of Vim is it has a whole bunch of keyboard shortcuts. I honestly do not know most of these. I'm not a Vim user. I'm a bit clumsy when it comes in here, but there's up arrow. I can up arrow to navigate. I can down arrow to navigate. I can left arrow, only gets me to the beginning of the line. I can right arrow to the end of the line. So it doesn't wrap like in Nano. So Nano, if I just kept it in the left arrow, it would take me back to the beginning of the line. It doesn't do that in this normal mode. The other way I can navigate are with some keyboard shortcuts. So H is the same thing as left arrow, J is down arrow, and K is up arrow, and L is right arrow. If you got your hand on the keyboard, you can real quickly navigate through using those keyboard shortcuts. A couple other quick navigational things is they have a shortcut called GG. So if I type GG, it pops me to the top of the file. If I type capital G, it takes me to the bottom of the file. If this had a bunch of words in it and I hit W, it would take me to the next word. I don't have a sentence with a whole bunch of words in here, but if you hit W, it would take those words. And B moves you back by one word. So W is to the right by one word, keep going, and B is back by one word and just keeps going. The B does kind of traverse different lines. So if I can, and so does W. So if I hit W, 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 I'm actually going down the row because it's seeing just the words. If it B, 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 it's going up and it's navigating up there. So if I want to switch to edit mode, press the I key, and then you can see down here, now I'm in insert mode. And so now my cursor still works the same. All my navigation still works the same. But now I can hit enter and I can make changes to this document. So here I can enter Fred, for example. To exit the insert mode, I can hit the escape key, and now I'm back in my navigation mode where I can move up and down like I did before. So navigation works the same in both normal mode and also works the same in insert mode. All right, and there's a couple of shortcuts too, just like Nano had. You know, if I'm over, for example, Fred, the cursor's on Fred, and I want to delete that current line, I can type DD when I'm in this kind of normal mode, and DD will delete the current line. If I want to paste either what was just currently deleted or copied, I can type the P word, and then the P will paste back in the word Fred. So if I want to get rid of Fred, I can DD, DD, and I can get rid of all of those lines. So if I want to copy a line, for example, I want to copy this line Sarah, I can type in the YY command. So YY will copy Sarah, and then I can move the cursor down, and then I can put the P command and it will paste it in there. And so you can see I went up to the top, I can copy something, maybe I copy Bill with YY, and then I'm going to come down here, then paste in Bill below Ben. It is a bit funky on where it decides to go, so I copied Tom, that's the line I'm on, and if I'm here on Ben, at the beginning of Ben, and I paste it, let's see where it goes. It goes right after Ben. So it's on the next line. If you make mistakes, you can undo the mistakes. You can type U to undo, and that'll go back through and undo all the changes that you made to this file. And finally, let's go ahead and save our file. So to enter this command mode, I can type in colon, and then at the very bottom, you can see now I'm in this area down here where I can type in the next command. So if I type in Q and enter, what it's going to say, oh, wait, you made some changes, but you didn't really write those changes. So it's kind of giving me an error. So I'm going to go back to the command. If I want to save, I can use the W command. So I just hit W, and now it's saved the names. It wrote that changes out to the disk. If I type colon and then Q now, it will let me exit. But let's go back in to names, and we will make a small change. We're going to add Fred back in there. I hit escape to get back into this mode, and now I can go back into the commands. If I want to save and exit, I can kind of concatenate the commands. So that's save, and then here's exit. or I can just do X for save and exit. WQ concatenates those commands together, and it'll save and exit at the same time. Let's go back in one last time. If I made some changes to this file, so maybe I entered here and I don't like the changes I made, I can hit colon to enter command mode, and then what I can do is I can hit Q exclamation mark to quit without saving. And so now if I were to cat out those names, that new data that I just typed in there I didn't want, it didn't save. So we'll go back into Vim one last time here, and let's start to look at some of these other commands. If I want to search for, let's say, Joe, I can type a slash, and then I'll type in what I want to search for. And it's going to search forward of the cursor. And you can see the cursor was up here, and it found this instance Joe. All right, that's one way to search. You can also search backwards. I can put a question mark, and I can type in what I want to search for, and it's going to start to search backwards from that cursor. And so it's kind of a live search, either forward or backwards. It'll start to find it. So even if it's like something like O, it found that first occurrence, but now I want O, maybe B, that's there, but maybe I want OE, and you can see that there. Anyways, you can search forward or you can search backwards in the cursor. So that's helpful to kind of quickly find and navigate to a piece that you want to edit. All right, so that's it for Vim. Let's move on to Emacs. Now, Emacs by default was not installed on my Ubuntu instance. So the very first thing I needed to do was I had to install Emacs, and that's sudo apt install, and then the command or the package is E3. And so if I run this again, it won't do much for me because I already have it installed, but that's how you would get Emacs installed. Once it's installed, you can use Emacs as an editor by just typing Emacs and then the name of the file that you want to edit. And again, here's the file contents. Navigation is much like the navigation in the other two. I can use my arrow keys to navigate up and down. I can use my right arrow to navigate to the right. And again, here is much like Nano. It'll just wrap. Left, same thing, navigating to the left. My Control A to the beginning of the line and Control E to the end of the line function the same as they did before. So Control A, Control E, back and forth. You can see that end of the line, beginning of the line. And editing is it's kind of live and it's in its editing mode. So wherever I'm at, I can start to type. So I hit enter. I can enter a new one. I don't know, like maybe Stan here. There's a Stan. I can make changes and alterations to the file. I'm going to have put a last name on Stan here just so I can show you another command. Control K in Nano deleted the whole line. A little bit difference here in Emacs is Control K will delete from the cursor to the right, so the end of the line. So if I hit Control K right now, it's going to delete Smith. And it left Stan there. That's Control K. And then Control Y is I paste whatever the last thing I cut at. So I can go down to this one. I can make them all Smith, right? So Tom Smith, I can add Smith to everybody's name. I'm just going down and then I'm hitting Control Y. Every single time I hit Control Y, it pastes in whatever I did last. I don't want to save these changes, but let's go through how we would exit without doing saves. So I Control X. And then I'm kind of in this mode where it's waiting for one more command. So from here, I'm going to type Control C, and it's going to ask me, do I want to save, yes or no? I'm going to type in no, and then I exited. So if I cat out these names, I should not see Smith at all. But let's go ahead back into Emacs, and we'll edit our names again. I did like that we added Stan in there, so we're going to add Stan again. And I hit Control X. And if I want to save this thing, I type Control S, and it'll save name, the changes that we made to the names file. Control X and Control C then will exit Emacs. So if I cat out the names, I should see Stan in my list now. That's it for kind of the basics of Nano, Vim, and Emacs. Again, I'm not stating which is better. I think the tool that you are more used to and more familiar with is probably the best one. I do see people whip around in Vim that know kind of all the shortcuts and have put the time in and invested the energy to learn all those. For me personally, Nano is almost everywhere that I go, so I use a lot of Nano, but that's just me being me. So let's let everybody be themselves. I'll be me, you be you, and if you want to try to have some conversation about which editor is better and why you like it the best, you can leave that information in the comments. We'll see you next time.